So we go to chapter 42, lean production. So when we talk about lean production, basically the word lean means, as small as possible. So businesses they try to use an approach whereby whenever they are producing, they try to not use a lot of resources. So lean production is a production method that reduces the amount of resources used in the course of producing. Do you get the point, please? Are you here, Monica? Do you get the point I just made now? So let's go down. Yeah, lean production is an approach to production developed by Toyota, the Japanese car manufacturer. It aims to use fewer resources in production, like I just said earlier. Lean production means instead of find a way of reducing the amount of or the level of resources you use in the course of production. So this includes, why do we use lean production? You just go down there. It said this includes factory space, material stocks, suppliers, labor, capital, and time. All these are resources used by the business. So we want to find a way of reducing the amount of all these things that we use. Why? Number one, it raises productivity. So when we are able to use for example, limited numbers of employees or limited numbers of workers, and in the course of using limited numbers of workers, we are able to increase our output. That means productivity is increasing. Yeah. So sometimes you have a lot of workers that are doing nothing. So why are you still hold on to them? Release them and use the numbers of workers that you think will be enough for your productivity. So with lean production, productivity will increase. Because at that point in time, you won't be having workers that are not doing anything. That is the point there. Do you get it? Yeah. The second point, reduces cost and cuts lead time. So because we are trying to reduce the amount, for example, resources we use, the raw materials we use, we are trying to reduce the number of the level or the quantities of raw materials we use. It means our variable cost would reduce, because variable costs are costs that increases as output increases. Yeah. So if we are reducing the level or the quantities of raw materials we are using, it means our variable cost will be reducing, and that might allow us to be able to deliver on time. Do you get the second point there? Yeah. The third point, reduces the number of defective products. Now that we are reducing the cost of the raw materials we are using, so it means we won't be producing excess. Do you get the point we're talking about here? We will not be producing excess. So that means we won't be having goods that will get spoiled in no time, because we're using the levels of raw materials that we needed for the production. Do you get the third point there? Is it clear, please? Are you here? The last point, they said improves reliability and speeds of product design. Then our production will be reliable. That means because we are using lean production, we will be able to deliver at the right time for our customers. Our customers will be able to rely on us. They will be able to trust us, because they know at every point in time, they're going to get quality from us. They're going to get raw material products that are going to be useful for their consumption. Mm-hmm. Do we get it? Yeah. Yes, lean production involves using a range of practices designed to reduce waste and to improve productivity and quality. So for lean production, it's an aspect of production. So there are different approaches to lean production, like casing, just in time. So we're going to talk about them later on. So for lean production is an approach that a business is having, the mindset a business is having, to reduce the raw materials it uses, to reduce the number of workers it uses, to reduce whatever resources, either fixed or especially the variable resources that the business is using. So what are the kind of lean production methods that a business could use? The first one mentioned here, just-in-time production. So for just-in-time, here, you're going to get, we call it just-in-time because we're going to get resources that we need for the production at this point in time. So the resources that we're going to get, the stock that we're going to use are for the production or the operations that we needed this time. That is just in time. Do you get just in time here? Yeah. So look at what they said. They said, they wrote, a business holds stock, money is tied. If a business holds stock, money is tied and therefore wasted. So when you keep a lot of stocks, it means there won't be cash flow. Money is tied down. because that stock is representing certain amount of money spent, which is outflow. So if you are keeping this stock, and if you are keeping these stocks or these raw materials without using them at this present time, it is you are keeping money, you are holding money. Money is held, being wasted, not useful, because it's an opportunity cost. Instead of you keeping these stocks that you are not using at this point in time, why can't you use it for other things? Why can't you use that money for other day in, day out activity of the business? That is the point they're talking about here. So as a result, the business is unproductive. To overcome this problem, many businesses have adopted just-in-time production method, which means hold any stock of raw materials or components. Before I go further, because you don't want to waste, you don't want to hold money, because you want to use money every now and then, you have to start thinking about how not to keep stocks. So one way in which you won't be able to keep stocks is to use the JIT, just in time. So when you use just in time, they said this means that the business does not hold any stock of raw materials or components. Because at that point in time, when you use just in time, you are using the materials you have right now to make production. It means you're not going to keep any resources. It means you're not going to keep any stock. So that means when you use just in time, you're not keeping stock of raw materials or components. The second point means you're not going to produce any goods unless they have been ordered for. That's why we call it just in time. So we are using this approach, makes us to produce whenever customers have ordered for our products. So we get these raw materials as soon as we receive orders from our customers. Well, look at these 2 points made here. If you are holding stock, it means you are keeping money. Money will not be flowing. 2, if you are holding stock, it means you are producing. You are not producing as of now. So customers' response, customers are not asking for your customers are not asking for anything. You are just keeping these stocks. Also, you have the space that you're supposed to be using for other things is held with stocks. So what are the advantages? I think you understand what just in time means here.
Yes.
Just in time means you are making production based on orders. If there are no orders, you don't make production. That is just in time. It's a lean production method. I think it's clear. So what are the advantages of using just in time? Number 1, cash flow is improved. How is cash flow improved? Cash flow is improved because at this present time, we are not keeping cash. We are not going to keep any stocks. So cash is not tied to the stocks. So we have our cash with us. So whatever we need to do, we can do it. Do you understand why cash flow is improving here? Cash, it's not going to be like there's only cash outflow, no cash inflow. So the business will be able to use cash for whatever it knows that's going to bring return immediately. Do you get the first point there? Do you get it, please? Yeah. The second point, no waste, out of date or damaged stock. You're not wasting resources because we're going to produce only when there's order. 2, we're not going to produce excess that will get outdated or expire. And 3, because we have a lot of products or stocks available, some get spoiled. We're not going to have all these things happening anymore. That's another advantage about just in time. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Are you here? The third one, space is released. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of stocks now, but now we have space because we're only going to get these stocks when we have to produce. So there's more space for the business to use. Stronger links with suppliers. It means every now and then you have to be communicating with your supplier. So it improves the relationship between the business and its supplier, isn't it?
Yes.
Because every now and then you have to update them that, oh, we have received some orders for certain products. We need to get these orders as soon as possible. So it increases or improves your relationship with suppliers. Yeah. I think you get the point. And the last one, fewer suppliers, yes? Because these days you're not going to keep a lot of stocks. You only need stocks when they have to be produced. So you don't need a lot of suppliers, isn't it? Yeah. Do we get it? Any question about that? Now we go to the problems now. The first problem, higher ordering and administration costs. Because you are not keeping stocks, sometimes we might be in the peak period of time, in the peak period, when we have a lot of orders. So that means when we have a lot of customer demands, that we need to make production. So we need to make orders as much as possible. Because the method we are using is a method that does not keep stocks. So the problem here is that when we have lot of demands from customers. We need to make a lot of orders, and this will be expensive at that time. Do you get the point?
Yeah.
The demand is increasing. So we need to make orders, or we need orders at this present time. We have few suppliers. So these few suppliers might not be enough to produce or to give us, to deliver, or to supply us with the necessary quantities needed for production. So this is a cost for the business, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
The second point relies usually on suppliers' reliability. Because we have few suppliers. So for us to be able to deliver, we need our suppliers to be efficient, to be effective. So it's not going to be our making, it's going to be the making of our suppliers. So if our suppliers are not going to deliver on time, then the business is going down. So we need our suppliers to be reliable. If they're not reliable, the business is going down. Do you get it? So that means the success of our business, because we're using just in time, is mainly on the reliability of our suppliers. Do we get it? The third point, advantages of bulk buying may be lost because we are only producing when we need to produce. That means we're going to be operating on a smaller scale. Do we get it? So because we are operating on a smaller scale, we won't be able to enjoy economies of scale. Bulk buying, purchasing economies of scale. Do we get it? The fourth one, how to cope with changes in demand. It's difficult because we already have our plans mapped out. So if demand increases at any point in time, it's going to be difficult for us to be able to meet up with the demand of customers. Because one, we use few suppliers. And with few suppliers, we won't be able to get few suppliers. We mean that we have certain numbers of customers that we deliver to. But now the numbers of customers are increasing. These few suppliers might not be enough to help us with the supplies we needed. That means we are not efficient. And this could be a problem. We might start losing customers. Do you get it? And the last one, vulnerable to a break in supply. If we don't get the supply we need, because our operations depend on suppliers. So we'll do nothing. We won't be able to do anything because we don't have stocks. Because the process we use is it makes our warehouse to be free, to have more space. So when we need raw materials, we open the warehouse, there's nothing inside, it's empty. So we are vulnerable to supply. So if there's a break in supply, if we don't have our supplies delivered, then we won't be able to produce. Do we understand just in time here? Just in time is effective, is cost effective, but at the same time, it has its own problems because your operations is mainly determined by your suppliers. Any question about just in time?
No.
We move on, right? We move on, right?
Yes.
The other method to use, I think, let's see. Okay, this is talking about stuff just in time. Okay, the next method is casing, I think. Okay, casing, yeah. So when I talk about casing, casing is a Japanese word that says continuous improvement.
Great.
Continuous what? Improvement. That's another method of lean production. Please take note of what we're talking about. Lean production is the practice of reducing the raw materials or labor used by the business in the course of production. There are methods of lean production, which we have just in time. I just explained them. Then we have casing, which is what continuous improvement. So for casing, they said this is a strong link between there's a strong link between lean production and casing. Casing is a Japanese word that refers to the practice of continuous improvement. There's a belief in Japan that everything can be improved, even at work. The Japanese believe it is possible to make small improvements continuously. This means that workers are always coming up with ideas to improve quality, reduce waste, or increase efficiency. So the point here is that everything is a work in progress, and there's always a room for improvement. So it's not going to happen just in a day, but with time, we will get to that point of reducing waste. That is about casing. So that means there's continuous improvement in what we do. Workers can get improved in how to manage resources. Managers can get improved in how to manage workers. Do you get how it's working here? Yeah. So for casing, the improvement will be very small, but over a long period of time, they have a huge impact. That's why we call it continuous improvement. It's not like just in time. For just in time, we want it right now. We put a block into wasting resources. That is for just in time. But for casing, we start little by little by little, we'll get there. That is the point there. So, in many Japanese companies, workers are familiar with coming up with ideas. It's because it has become part of their culture. However, when casing is adopted in other countries, workers have to be trained. Training plays a key role in casing because, evidently, workers in the West do not possess the same cultural characteristics of the Japanese. It's Japanese ideology of continuous improvement. So we adopt it. Do you get the point?
Yes.
We in the West adopt it. As a result, it is not part of our ways of operation. So it means if we are adopting this practice, we need to be trained because it's not our way of life. We are not Japanese. We are Westerners. So we don't have this approach, but this approach can be used if we are well trained. That is the point they are making here. Do we get it?
Yeah.
So the elimination of waste in business is an important part of casing. Firms that adopt casing train workers to continually search for waste and suggest how it might be avoided. This is why casing has a strong link with lean production. Examples of waste may be one, time wasted while staff wait around before starting tasks, such as waiting for materials to arrive. For casing, the first thing you have to do is you try to discover that waste. Try to discover the waste, then you start improving on them. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Example is the time workers waste, waiting for raw materials to come. So we're not going to be able to do anything because we don't have the raw materials to work on. So now we know that time wasted by workers is not because they want to waste the time, it's because raw materials are not always available. They need to wait for raw materials. So the problem is raw materials not delivered on time. So we have to find a way to start delivering raw materials on time. They need to talk to the suppliers. 2, time wasted when workers move unnecessarily in the workplace, such as walking to a central point in the factory to get tools. Workers waste time too. This is where they are going. They are going here. Instead of them to go straight, they go through that way. It's just waste time. Do you get it?
Yes.
Some workers will start stretching. Stretching is a waste of time. So we need to discover why workers are wasting this precious time. Because this time we're talking about a time to be for production. So that is why there's always delay to deliver customers' needs. The 4th point, the irregular use of a machine, such as one that is only used once a month. It's a waste. Why do we keep this machine if it's going to be used just once in a month? Why can't we hire instead of buying it? Why can't we borrow it? Yeah. So this machine is here, taking the space, taking a lot of maintenance expenditures. Why can't we just get this machine whenever we need it? Maybe by hiring it or borrowing it for that period of time, then we pay and it's gone. Do we get the point, please? Yes. Any question about that? So they said casing is about building a culture in which all employees are actively involved in suggesting and implementing improvements to the company. So for casing, it's not going to be just you alone. It's not going to be me alone as a manager. It means all of us have to come up with different ideas to improve what we are doing. Is it clear? Yeah. Any question up to now? No. So we move on. Then it says one of the key drivers in casing is good housekeeping. A clean and well-organized working environment is needed for continuous improvement to flourish. The Japanese use a method called 5S to ensure that this is achieved. What does 5S stand for? Sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain. And let's take it one at a time. To sort. When you have to sort, you have to get rid of the clutters, those things that are causing the delay. You get rid of them. That means you are sorting. When you say you are sorting, you are taking the remnants away. You want those things that are important, that are useful for your production. That is sorting. You get it? Yeah. They're set in order, you organize them. As soon as you've sorted everything, you put them in order, you organize them, you arrange them. As soon as that is done, shine. Ensure work area and equipment are clean. Shine them. Let them be ready to be used. Let them be ready for usage. Then you standardize. For standardize, it's a practice. Use a method. Design a method of continuous process. Not like you use this today, you use method A, tomorrow you're going to use method B, after tomorrow you're going to use method C. No. Create a method and continue on that method. That is standardized. Do you get it, please?
Yes.
Now that you've adopted this method, you have to sustain it. You have to adopt a system to lock the other 4S into the way people work at all times on a permanent basis. So now that you have a system, let it work. Let it be practical. So anybody that is coming in is not going to change the system, but walk into what? The system. Please get the point here. As soon as there is a standard, standards are reliable. Why are they reliable? They are reliable because you can repeat them. That's why we call it set a standard. When you set the standard, anybody that comes in goes through the standard. You're not going to come with your own style or system anymore. You follow suit. That is how we create a system. Create a system that if anybody comes in, anyone that comes into that system will be able to abide or work with the system. That is when the standard is being set. Do we get it? Do we get it, please?
So the business are taken more seriously by the
Yes. Whatever we do, we need to be serious about it. If not, if you don't have a standard, it means anybody can just dump anything on you. So you have to set a standard. So as soon as this standard is set, how do you sustain it? Sustenance will come based on practices. So everybody that comes knows this is what we have to do. There's no shortcuts to it. It's a clear fix. So once casing is adopted, it is likely to be supported by a wide range of techniques, principles, and practices. Techniques, principles, and practices. So there's one thing in understanding. There's another thing in being disciplined. Casing is a practice that needs a lot of discipline. So that's why we said, oh, these practices is a technique, but these practices need principles. So anybody that comes in must understand the importance of going through this way that the business has adopted. That is the principle here. You don't compromise it. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
And the last thing I talk practices. So on a regular basis, this is what we do. This is how we do it here. So you just have to learn how we do it here. That is the point. Clear?
Yeah.
Now go to standardization. I already explained standardization. It means what? Practices that a business must abide onto. This is how you work, and this is how we continue to work. That is standardization. So anybody that comes in goes through that same route or through that practices. Do we understand standardization here? It's a formula that a business must adopt, and every workers that are linked with that business also works with it. Team working. This involves dividing the workforce into small groups. Each team will focus on a particular area of production, and team members will have the same common aims. So we have a team. So, team A, team B, team C. So those workers in that group must aim for the same objective. That's why we have team working. I think it's clear. So what are the benefits of team working? Number one, workers should develop a team spirit. This may improve motivation and productivity. So when there's team spirit, you're going to be able to do yours. You're going to be able to use your idea within the group. Not only you having, okay, you're going to be able, you have your idea, I have my idea, he has his own idea, she has her own idea. We'll be able to put all these ideas together for the benefit of the group. So, and that will do what? It increases our productivity and motivation, because everybody will be at least contributing to the success of the business.
Yeah.
Two, flexibility might improve. For example, team members might be more willing to cover for an absent colleague because there's a team spirit, which means if Tara is not available, I can cover up for him because we already know what we are aiming at. So the gap is going to leave, or the vacuum is going to leave behind, will not be affected because we can cover up for him. Do we get it? That is flexibility. The third point, teams might plan their own schedule, share out tasks, and solve their own problems. This should lead to quicker decision making and more ideas. Within the group, we are able to know the strength and the weakness of each other. Do you get the point here? Because we are able to understand the strength and the weakness of each other, that means we can work on the strength, work on my strength, work on your strength, then we can find a way of carrying off or encouraging our weakness. So that means we'll be able to deliver on time. So I know what he knows. Oh, yeah, Malik won't be able to do this, and I can do this, so I'll be able to do that. So Malik should leave the decision about that for me. So he's going to be able to take decision about what he knows. I'm going to be able to take decision about what I know. So the time at which the decision will be taken is so fast and quicker.
Yeah.
Are we getting the place? The last point here, communication and labor relations might also improve. We won't have a team without communication, because communication means encoding and decoding of information. So whatever we need to do, it's about information. So because we have accepted to have the same group, because we have accepted to be in the same group, it means our communication is important. It means it's positive. So because our communication is positive, our relationship will be positive too. We get it?
Yes.
Any question up to now? So we go to empowerment. What is empowerment? Giving you added value, making sure you can do things on your own. That's what empowerment is about. So here it said, empowerment gives employees more control over their own work. You see, you are able to do things on your own. So you are being empowered. That is another way of motivating workers, because it makes them to be more responsible. It makes them to be able to be responsive to their responsibilities. So in the past, most workers have followed the instructions given to them by managers. So here, you become proactive. You can do things without the presence or without the control or support of your manager. So you can do things on your own.
You can be creative.
You can be creative. You can be creative. Even without it, because now your ideas are needed. You can do things without the support or without the presence of your managers. Do we get it? So they were really required to think for themselves. Like, that's about creativity here. Workers depend on managers to dash out information because they feel they cannot think themselves. But with empowerment, you can think, you can do things without them. So what does this mean? As a result, the business benefits from more workers realizing their full potential. So it is to the advantage of the businesses, because at that point in time, because workers are able to think for themselves, they're going to be able to come up with different ideas to carry out their respective tasks, which is good for the business. Also, motivation is likely to improve since workers feel trusted and their work may be more interesting. Because I'm being allowed to do my job, because I'm being given the opportunity to explore, then I feel like, oh, the company, the business trusts me. That could increase my motivation. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Suggestion schemes. It says suggestion schemes encourage workers to suggest ideas to improve production or reduce costs. A simple scheme involves workers writing their ideas down and putting them into a suggestion box. So another way to improve lean production is through suggestion scheme. So here, workers are not empowered, but their ideas are welcomed. Get the point? You have idea, just write it down, put it in the suggestion. There's always a suggestion box in the company. So you have your idea, write it down, put it there. At the end of every week, the managers or the supervisors check the suggestion box, bring out the ideas, and they work on them. But as soon as they work on it, you would know as an individual that, oh, this was my idea. This was what I wrote in the suggestion box. Now they are using it. Do you get the point?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, then we have quality cycles. For quality control cycle or quality cycles, are small groups of workers in the same production, in the area of production, who meet on a regular basis to solve production problems. We call them quality cycle. Why? Because this cycle, what they do is individuals with best skills, they come together at the end of every weekend. What's the problem we have for production this week? How are we going to be able to solve it? So what they do is come together with their think tank to solve the production problem for each passing week. Do you get quality circle here?
Yeah.
Quality circle are a group of workers that come together to solve production problems. Clear?
Yes.
Multi-skilling. Multi-skilling. Yeah, if workers are trained in a variety of skills, they are said to be multi-skilled. Multi-skilled workers are more useful to a business because they provide more flexibility. Because you are multi-skilled, it means you could adapt to any working operations or any operational demand. That means you can work in logistics department today, you can be in human resources department tomorrow, you can be in finance department tomorrow because you are multi-skilled. This helps businesses a lot. That means they can really rely on you when the demand comes. It's good to work, it's good for workers to be multi-skilled because you become inevitable for your organization. You become very important for the organization. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Are we sure? Yeah. All right. So what are the importance of using resources effectively? These resources, casing is a way of using resources effectively. Just in time is also a method of using resources effectively. So what are the benefits of using resources effectively? Number one. So go to the financial benefits. Clearly, if your resources are used, business cost will be lower. So the point is, as soon as we are reducing the cost, as soon as we are reducing the quantities of raw materials we are using, it means we'll be spending less on the raw materials. So that's a financial benefit, isn't it? Why is it a financial benefit? It's a financial benefit because we're going to be able to use those cash that we're supposed to be spending on keeping raw stocks on other aspects, which improves our cash flow. That is the financial benefit there. Do we get it or not?
Yes.
This will increase returns for the owners and provide cheap funds for investment in the future. So instead of keeping stocks, now we have cash. So whatever we have to do at any point in time, we're able to do it with cash. Because anything we are going to spend that cash on will be something that is going to be returned to us. Bring return. I know we know what return is profit. Clear?
Yeah.
That's the first advantage of using resources effectively. The second one, improve competitiveness. Lead producers will have a competitive edge in the market. Businesses that use their resources effectively will be able to lower their prices. So you're going to be able to have a competitive advantage because you are cost effective. And when you are cost effective or cost efficient, it means you're going to be able to charge a lower price. Being able to charge a lower price increases your demand in the market. So you're going to be your customer, your competitors will start losing their customers to you.
Yeah.
That gives you a competitive edge over there. Do you get the point here? Effective use of resources means your cost of production will fall. And when your cost of production falls, you'll be able to charge lower prices. Charging lower prices takes away customers from your competitors coming to you. Clear, right?
Yeah.
Positive environmental effects. If a business makes more effective use of resources, it will be making a positive contribution to the protection of the environment. For example, if a business uses less energy, such as electricity, it will help reduce emissions. So, in the course of not wasting resources, you are also helping the environment. Because at that point in time, you won't be emitting unnecessary pollution, carbon.
You're reducing your waste.
You're reducing waste, you're reducing carbon emitted. Is it clear? Any question about that? And the last point is about the customers, who are the king of the business. So without the customers, you're doing nothing. So as a result, you need to improve your customer service, isn't it?
Yes.
So customers are likely to benefit if a business makes more effective use of resources. For example, lean production often result in shorter lead time. This means that customers will be able to get their products or their deliver more quickly. So because we are producing as at when due, because we are producing just in time, our customers will be able to get their products when they demand for it. That means we are effective. So customers will be happy with this, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yes.
When you're able to deliver to them on time, they will be happy. That increases your customer, it improves customer loyalty. It increases customer loyalty. Customers will always see you serious. So they wouldn't want to change. Any question about that? So go to the question, please. The first one. Which of the following is an advantage of just-in-time manufacturing? Just in time.
B, stock holding costs significantly reduced.
Depends on the reliability.
Dependence
No, that's big.
is disadvantage.
Huge disadvantage.
Dependence on reliability of supplier. So you depend. When you are vulnerable to supplier, is it an advantage? It's a problem.
It's big. Big.
Well,
Big.
you said A. Let me explain it. They said labor productivity is increased. It's not about labor productivity. It's about productivity. It's not only labor here. It's about productivity. That means production as a whole. So, but here it's indicating a labor productivity, which is not the answer. Stock holding costs are significantly reduced. We're not going to be having stocks here anymore. So that means we are able to use our space for something else. So the answer is B. Clear.
Yeah.
The second question, please. Lean production focuses on which of the following?
Using fewer resources.
Using fewer resources. Thank you. C. Great. Question 3. What does Kevin mean?
A.
Continuous improvement, yes. And it's what? It's which country's word? Japanese. Japanese, thank you. Then the last question. Which of the following is the practice associated with casing? Thank you. Empowerment. We'll move on. Okay, yeah, let's see this. That's in chapter what? Chapter 43.